She thought their hotel encounter was a one-time mistake until he returned at her interview. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. The hallway of the Riverside Grand Hotel stretched long and silent, washed in warm yellow light from a row of ceiling lamps that glowed like watchful eyes. It was late evening, the kind of hour when footsteps echoed and every sound felt louder than it should. Most doors were shut tight, the world behind them soft and private. Except for one, room 417. Inside, Maya Carter was standing barefoot on the cool tile floor, fresh out of the shower, steam swirling behind her like a fading cloud. She wrapped a towel tightly around herself, gripping the fabric with one hand while tugging on the bathroom door handle with the other. The handle clicked, then jammed, then refused to move at all. "Come on. Please," she whispered, giving it one more forceful pull. Nothing. The door had locked itself from the inside. Her heart dropped. She looked around the room, desperately searching for anything she could use to pry it open, but the closet was empty. Her bag was out of reach on the other side of the bathroom wall, and her phone was charging on the nightstand. She exhaled shakily. "I cannot call anyone from here." She had exactly two choices: stay trapped, or step outside wrapped in nothing but a towel and her remaining dignity. Her pulse hammered as she cracked open the room door. She peeked out into the hallway, hoping it would be empty. It was not. A man stood halfway down the corridor, leaning casually against the wall near the elevator. Tall, sharply dressed in a charcoal suit with posture so calm it made the silence feel intentional. His tie was perfectly set, his jawline impossibly defined. He looked like someone who made decisions that changed entire rooms the moment he entered them. Adrian Hale, although she did not know his name yet, only the feeling that this man belonged to a world far above hers. He turned his head at the faint sound of her door opening. Their eyes locked. For a heartbeat, neither of them moved. Maya froze in place, clutching the towel even tighter, her breath catching in her throat. Her cheeks flushed with humiliation as she realized how this must look. A young woman peeking out of her hotel room wearing nothing but panic and terry cloth. Adrian's expression shifted, not with amusement, not with judgment, but with a calm, almost protective alertness. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice deep and steady. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. Words tangled somewhere between her fear and her dignity. "My bathroom door. It jammed. I cannot get to my clothes. I did not mean to run into anyone. I need help." A faint flicker crossed his eyes, something between concern and restrained curiosity. He straightened his posture and stepped closer, but not too close. He kept a respectful distance, letting her breathe. "You should not walk through the lobby like that," he said calmly. "I can call maintenance for you." "You work here," she blurted out. He paused for the briefest second. Something like that. Before she could process his answer, he lifted his phone and made a quick, quiet call. She heard him mention her room number, his tone controlled and efficient. Maya swallowed, mortified beyond words. She wished she could sink into the carpet and disappear. Yet something in his presence, steady, grounded, composed, kept her from spiraling further. When he ended the call, he looked at her again. "Someone is on the way. You should stay inside until they arrive." "Thank you," she whispered, heat rushing to her face. She stepped back and closed the door as gently as she could. The moment it clicked shut behind her, she pressed her back to the wall, covering her face with her hands. Of all the people she could have run into, why did it have to be a man like that? She told herself she would never see him again. He was just a stranger in a suit, a momentary humiliation she would someday laugh about. But she was wrong, because in less than 48 hours she would walk into a downtown office building for a job interview, fully dressed, fully prepared, and fully unaware that she was about to sit across from the same man she met in a towel. And this time he would not be a stranger. He would be the one holding her future in his hands. The next morning arrived with a soft gray light pressing against Maya's curtains, the kind of muted dawn that made everything feel heavier. She woke with the memory of the hallway incident pulsing in her mind like a bruise she could not hide. Every time she blinked, she saw the charcoal suit, the calm eyes, the moment their gazes locked. She groaned into her pillow. "I will never survive this level of humiliation," she whispered. But the day moved whether she was ready or not. Maya hurried into her morning shift at the Sunrise Inn. The lobby smelled faintly of coffee and lemon disinfectant. She tied her name tag, tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear, and stepped behind the front desk. Her manager handed her a stack of check-ins and a plastic bin of lost and found items. "Busy morning," he said. "I need you at full speed today." "I will do my best," she replied, forcing a calm she did not feel. As she worked, she could not stop replaying the moment she had peeked into that hallway wrapped only in a towel. The memory made her stomach twist each time, but there was something else she kept thinking about too. Adrian's tone. Not mocking, not careless, just steady, almost strangely protective. It did not make the embarrassment easier, but it made the moment harder to forget. During her break, she sat outside on the small concrete bench near the employee entrance and opened her worn sketchbook. Page after page showed glimpses of her life: the bus stop, the view from her apartment window, coffee cups, rain-streaked sidewalks. Drawing helped her stay grounded when life felt unstable. She turned to a blank page and began sketching the hotel hallway from memory. The long shadows, the warm lights, the shape of a figure in a charcoal suit. She froze halfway through, shading the lapel. "No," she muttered, closing the book quickly. "We are not drawing him." She glanced at her phone. Tomorrow was her job interview downtown, the one she had pinned all her hopes on, an administrative assistant position at Harbor & Lee Consulting. Stable hours, a real salary, benefits. She whispered a small wish into the quiet morning air. "Please let this be my chance." That evening, after finishing her shift at the cafe, she rode the bus home with her head resting against the cool window. City lights streaked by in blurred lines. Her reflection stared back at her tired eyes, borrowed coat hair pulled into a small knot to save time. She needed something to change. She needed a door to open that was not jammed shut like the bathroom had been. At home, she laid out her simple interview outfit on the back of a chair. A cream blouse, a navy skirt, the blazer she had found at a thrift store for $9. She pressed the wrinkles with a borrowed iron and practiced her interview answers out loud. "What motivates you? I want stability and a chance to grow. What is your strength? I stay calm when things fall apart." She paused. Even saying the words out loud felt like a challenge to herself. Later, she sat at her tiny kitchen counter sipping instant tea warmed in a chipped mug. The apartment was quiet except for the soft hum of the old refrigerator. She picked up her sketchbook again, hesitating for a long moment before opening it. On the last page, she wrote a line in small, careful handwriting: "Tomorrow could be the beginning." She touched the words gently, letting the hope sink in. She did not know that tomorrow would not just be the beginning of a new job interview. It would be the beginning of a truth she never expected, because the man she met in nothing but a towel and panic was about to sit across from her in a tailored suit with her entire future resting in his hands, and neither of them was ready for what that moment would stir. The next morning rose with a pale, quiet light, the kind that made the city look half awake. Maya stood at the bus stop, wearing her thrifted blazer, smoothing the front of her blouse for the 10th time. Her stomach churned with nerves that refused to settle. She kept repeating one sentence in her mind like a prayer. "This interview matters. This is your chance." The bus arrived with a metallic groan, and she stepped inside, clutching her folder of resumes. She sat near the window, hands folded tightly in her lap. The city moved past her in soft motion, small cafes opening their doors, office workers rushing with coffee cups, the murmur of everyday life continuing as if nothing dramatic were waiting for her. When the bus reached downtown, she stepped out into the crisp morning air. Tall blue glass buildings towered over her, their reflections stretching across the sidewalks. Harbor & Lee Consulting stood in the center of the block, polished and intimidating. The revolving doors glimmered in the morning light. Maya paused outside the entrance. She inhaled, she exhaled, she whispered, "You can do this." Inside the lobby was cool and elegant, with white marble floors and soft ambient lighting. People moved with purpose, wearing tailored clothes and carrying sleek laptops. She approached the security desk, her voice steady despite the nerves. "I am here for the administrative assistant interview." The guard checked her name, handed her a visitor badge, and directed her to the 20th floor. She stepped into the elevator, its walls made of brushed steel, that reflected her anxious expression back at her. As the numbers climbed, her pulse climbed with them. On the 20th floor, she followed a hallway lined with framed artwork. A receptionist greeted her with a polished smile. "You must be Maya. Please have a seat in the lounge. Someone will be with you shortly." The lounge was quiet except for the soft ticking of a decorative wall clock. Maya sat on a cushioned chair, her knees bouncing slightly. She held her folder tightly, trying to calm her breathing. She had prepared for this. She had practiced every answer. She had dreamed about stability for so long it felt like a distant place. But even with all that preparation, she never expected what came next. Footsteps sounded from the hallway, firm, confident, approaching with purpose. She straightened her back, smoothing her skirt one more time. The footsteps stopped at the doorway. She looked up and froze. Standing in the entrance was the man from the hotel hallway, the man she met wearing nothing but a towel and panic, the man who called maintenance for her, the man whose eyes she had not been able to forget. Adrian Hale, except now he looked even more impossibly composed in the bright light of the office charcoal suit, calm expression, a tablet in his hand. His eyes widened a fraction when he saw her, a brief crack in his normally steady exterior. But then he masked it with practiced professionalism. "Maya," he said gently. Her breath caught. "You work here?" A small hint of uncertainty flickered in his expression, but he nodded. "Yes. I will be conducting your interview today." The room felt too small, too bright, too impossible. Maya's pulse thudded in her ears. She opened her mouth to speak, but the words tangled and fell apart before reaching her lips. Adrian cleared his throat as if trying to anchor the moment. "Please follow me," he said. She rose on unsteady legs, her thoughts spiraling. She had wanted this job so desperately. She had worked so hard for this moment, and now she had to face the man who had seen her at her most vulnerable, wrapped in terry cloth and mortification. As she walked behind him down the hallway, she could barely breathe. He opened the door to a quiet conference room and gestured toward the seat across from him. "Please take a seat." Maya sat. Her hands trembled slightly in her lap. Adrian sat across from her, set down his tablet, and folded his hands. For a moment neither of them spoke. The air hummed with the weight of everything unspoken between them. Finally he said softly, "Let us begin." But the interview would not begin with questions on paper. It would begin with the tremor of two worlds colliding and the echo of a mistake neither of them could walk away from now. For several seconds after Adrian said, "Let us begin," the room remained still, not tense, not cold, just suspended, as if both of them were afraid that one wrong word might shatter the thin layer of composure they were holding on to. Adrian cleared his throat softly and lifted her résumé. "I want to assure you," he began, "that what happened at the hotel will not affect this interview in any way." Maya nodded quickly, almost too quickly. "Thank you. I appreciate that." But her voice trembled, betraying her nerves. Adrian noticed. His gaze softened just a touch. "Please try to relax," he said. "We will go through this step by step." He asked about her previous positions, her responsibilities at the hotel and the cafe, and the ways she handled high-pressure situations. As she answered, her voice steadied, gaining strength with each sentence. She realized something surprising. He listened. Truly listened. He did not rush her, did not interrupt her, and did not judge her for the lack of prestige on her résumé. When she finished describing a particularly chaotic morning at the cafe, he set the folder down. "That is impressive," he said. "Most people panic when things go wrong. You adapt." Maya blinked, taken off guard. Compliments were not something she received often. She lowered her eyes. "I just try to do what needs to be done." "That is exactly why you would be good here," Adrian replied. Her breath caught. The sincerity in his tone created a warmth she did not expect. He leaned back slightly, observing her with calm intensity. "Let me ask something different. Not about experience. About you." Her pulse fluttered. What do you want your life to look like in the next few years? The question landed like a weight, not heavy but meaningful. Maya looked down at her hands clasped on her lap. She had never been asked that in an interview, maybe never at all. I want... She hesitated, searching for the right words. I want a job that does not disappear every few months. I want to feel steady. I want to learn something that helps me build a future. She lifted her eyes slowly. I want to feel like my life is moving somewhere. Adrian nodded, his expression thoughtful. There was something in his gaze, recognition, empathy, a quiet understanding she did not expect from someone who looked like he had never struggled a day in his life. That is a very honest answer, he said. And I respect that. A small silence stretched between them. Not uncomfortable, just full. Then, he leaned forward slightly, lowering his voice enough that it felt like a private confession. Maya, I want you to know that I see potential in you. Not everyone tries as hard as you do. Not everyone keeps going when life becomes difficult. He paused. Do not underestimate yourself. Her chest tightened. No one had ever said words like that to her. Not with so much calm certainty. She looked at him, really looked beyond the suit and the steady posture and the power he seemed to carry without even trying. He did not feel intimidating anymore. He felt human. Thank you, she whispered. The way he held her gaze made her feel something she did not want to name yet. Something warm, something new, something that made the air between them feel slightly different. Adrian straightened the papers on the table, regaining his professional tone. There is one more thing. If you move forward to the next stage, there will be an internal review meeting. It is not formal, but it helps us see how you work with the team. She nodded. I will be ready. He smiled, small, subtle, the kind that felt almost private. I believe you will be. When the interview ended, he walked her to the door. His steps were calm, but something in his posture felt gentler now. Thank you for coming in today, Maya. Thank you for the opportunity, she said. As she stepped into the hallway, she felt her heartbeat race, not from nerves this time, but from something she could not quite understand. What she did not know was that Adrian watched her walk away with the same quiet breathlessness, realizing that the girl wrapped in a towel was someone he had not been able to forget. And now, after this interview, he knew he did not want to. For the next 2 days, Maya carried the interview in her mind like a fragile spark she was afraid to touch too hard. Every moment replayed itself the calm way. Adrian listened, the sincerity in his voice, the gentle shift in his expression. When she talked about wanting a future that did not collapse every few months, she tried to focus on her shifts at the hotel and the cafe, but her thoughts kept drifting back to him. She told herself it was only because the interview had been overwhelming. She told herself it was because she was nervous about the results. But deep down she knew it was more than that. On Wednesday morning, while she was sorting check-in folders at the Sunrise Inn, her manager called her name. Maya, something came for you. It was dropped off earlier. He handed her a slim envelope with her name written in clean handwriting. Her breath caught. She stepped aside away from the counter and opened it carefully. Inside was a letter on Harbor & Lee Consulting Stationery. Dear Maya Carter, thank you for your time. We are pleased to inform you that you have advanced to the next stage. Please return for a follow-up meeting on Friday. Her heart fluttered. She read it twice, just to believe it. At the bottom of the page, written in a small handwritten note, were 5 simple words. Please come as yourself. A. H. She stared at the initials for a long moment, her pulse picking up speed. The note was not necessary. It was not part of any official process. It was personal. That evening she stopped by the small neighborhood park she often visited after work. The wind rustled the leaves, gently carrying the soft scent of cut grass. She sat on her usual bench and pulled out her sketchbook. She had avoided drawing since the interview, worried that anything she put on paper would somehow reveal the confusion she was feeling. But when she opened the book, the pencil felt familiar in her hand, calming, like breathing. She sketched the outline of a city window, then a cup of coffee, then a blurry figure in a suit. She froze when she realized who she was sketching. Her cheeks warmed. She flipped to a new page quickly and forced herself to draw a street lamp instead. But the image of him lingered stubbornly in her mind, the quiet confidence, the way he said, "Do not underestimate yourself," the way it felt as if he meant. Friday morning came sooner than she expected. She dressed in her pressed blouse and blazer, checked her hair twice, and headed downtown. Her heartbeat quickened as she stepped through the revolving doors of Harbor and Lay once again. The receptionist smiled. "Good morning, Maya. Conference room 3 today." She walked down the hallway, her nerves a tight knot in her stomach. She paused at the open door before stepping inside. Adrian was already there. He stood near the window reviewing something on his tablet. When he looked up and saw her, something unspoken softened in his expression. "Good morning, Maya," he said, his voice warm. "Good morning," she replied, trying not to let her nerves show. He gestured toward a smaller table near the corner. "We will sit here today. I prefer conversations over formal interviews." She took her seat, and Adrian sat across from her, setting aside the tablet. "I want to know more about you," he said gently, "not just your work experience. What inspires you? What makes you feel alive?" Her fingers hesitated on the edge of her sketchbook inside her bag. This time she did not hide it. She pulled it out, placed it on the table, and opened it slowly. His eyes brightened. "Maya," he said quietly, "these are incredible." Her breath hitched, and for the first time in a long while she felt seen, not as a job candidate, not as the girl who once stood in a towel in a hallway, but as someone with something real to offer. And in that moment she realized the spark between them had shifted, growing into something deeper, warmer, and far more dangerous. For the next hour the small conference room felt less like an interview space and more like a quiet corner of the world where time moved differently. Adrian studied each page of Maya's sketchbook with a focus that made her chest tighten. He traced the lines of her drawings with his eyes, pausing at small details she never thought anyone would notice. "You see life the way most people overlook it," he said softly. "There is depth in your simplicity." The compliment warmed her, but it also unsettled something inside her. She was not used to being noticed in this way. Not by someone who carried such effortless authority. Not by someone who spoke to her as if her thoughts had weight. She gently closed the sketchbook to steady herself. "It is just something that helps me breathe. Life feels clearer when it is on paper." "I understand," he replied. "We all have something that keeps us grounded." His tone shifted, calm but with a shadow she had not heard before. Before she could ask what he meant, he placed her folder aside and leaned forward with his hands folded. "There is something important I want to discuss with you," he said. Her heart skipped. "You mentioned wanting stability," he continued. "A place to grow. A life that does not collapse with every unexpected moment. I want you to know that if you join this company, we will invest in you. Not just as an employee, but as someone with potential." The way he said "invest in you" made her pulse flutter with an emotion she did not want to name. "Thank you," she said quietly. "That means a lot." He gave a small smile, then exhaled as if debating internally. "There is something else you should know. The team here works closely with upper management. There are expectations, eyes on everything, and a culture of excellence that does not always leave room for mistakes. It can be overwhelming at first." She nodded slowly. "I can adapt. I am used to difficult environments." "I know you can," he replied. "That is why I brought you back." The words struck her with an unexpected tenderness. He could have chosen anyone, yet he chose her. A soft knock on the door interrupted the moment. An assistant peeked inside. "Mr. Hale, they are ready for your meeting." Maya blinked. "Mr. Hale." The name hung in the air like a quiet puzzle. Adrian thanked the assistant with a nod and turned back to her. "I need to go for a few minutes. Please wait here. After the meeting we will finish the paperwork for your onboarding." Her breath caught. "So, I got the job," his expression softened. "Yes, Maya, you did." The world shifted under her feet. All the late night studying, the exhaustion, the doubts, it all led to this moment. She inhaled a shaky breath, unable to hide her emotion. "Thank you," she whispered. "I want you here," he said gently, "more than you realize." When he left the room, she sat still, absorbing everything. The door clicked shut behind him, leaving the space quiet and filled with the faint scent of his cologne. She pressed her fingertips against her sketchbook, trembling with relief, and something warmer, something about the way he looked at her, the care in his tone, the unspoken connection building like a current between them. But the name lingered. Mr. Hale. She searched her memory. The hotel hallway. The way he said something like that when she asked if he worked there. The way the receptionist and assistants addressed him with a respect she did not fully understand. Something was not adding up. As she sat alone in the room, a feeling settled over her chest, a quiet certainty that the man she thought she was getting to know had a truth she had not uncovered yet. And that truth was about to change everything. Maya waited alone in the small conference room, the soft hum of the air vent filling the silence. Her fingers tapped lightly on her sketchbook, each tap echoing the growing unease inside her. The name Mr. Hale repeated in her mind like a whisper she could not ignore. She tried to brush it aside. A last name did not mean anything. Maybe it was just coincidence. Maybe he was simply a respected manager. Maybe she was overthinking. But the more she tried to calm herself, the more her instincts sharpened. People in the office treated Adrian differently. They lowered their voices around him. They stepped aside when he walked through the hallway. They looked at him with the kind of respect that did not come from a job title alone. This was not normal. A soft chime from the elevator pulled her attention. The door of the conference room was cracked open just enough for her to see a group gathering near the reception area. She recognized a few faces from her interview day. They were lining up near a glass door that led to a large event space. A woman in a sleek black dress checked off names on a clipboard. Gala briefing starts now. Make sure everything is prepared before Mr. Hale arrives. Maya felt her pulse stop for a moment. A gala. A briefing. For him, she stood slowly, drawn by curiosity she could no longer fight. She stepped into the hallway, staying near the wall, her steps quiet. At the far end, the event doors swung open, revealing a bright room filled with elegant decorations, floral arrangements, and a massive projection screen displaying the words Hale Foundation Annual Charity Gala. Her breath caught. Hale Foundation. She knew that name. Everyone in the city knew that name. It was stamped on hospitals, youth centers, and half the scholarship programs downtown. Before she could process the thought, the room shifted. Conversations softened, heads turned. Then she saw him. Adrian entered the event space with a group of board members, his presence commanding without effort. He wore the same controlled calm he always carried, but here in this world of polished elites and crystal centerpieces, he looked different. He looked like he belonged. He moved with an ease she had never seen before, greeting people with a quiet confidence. A man beside him laughed and clapped him on the back. Adrian, you are presenting this year. The board is counting on you. Presenting board, her breath grew thin. She watched him, her mind piecing together every hint she had ignored. The expensive suit, the way staff addressed him, the handwritten initials on her letter, the effortless authority in his voice, and now this. A charity gala under his family name. Her heart dropped into her stomach. Adrian Hale was not just someone who worked at the company. He was the company. He turned slightly, and for a brief second he saw her standing near the doorway. His expression shifted, surprise, then something softer. He stepped toward her, but she backed away before he reached her. Maya, he said, voice low. Wait. Her chest tightened painfully. Why did you not tell me? He paused, the weight of truth settling in his eyes. I wanted you to know me without the name, without the pressure, without the assumptions, but you let me believe something that was not true. It was not a lie, he said quietly. It was incomplete. Her voice trembled, shaking with hurt she had not expected to feel. I trusted you. He stepped closer. And you still can. She shook her head, her breath unsteady. I do not belong in your world, Adrian. I did not even know you had one. Maya, please. But she stepped back again, the distance growing not only between them but inside her chest, wide and painful. You should go to your gala, she whispered. I need to go home." Before he could reach her, she turned and walked toward the elevator, and this time Adrian Hale, who had never faltered in front of anyone, stood frozen, watching her slip away like something precious he had no right to lose. The next morning the city felt heavier than usual. Maya moved through her small apartment with a quiet numbness, her thoughts replaying the moment she walked away from Adrian. She tried to distract herself, washing dishes, folding laundry, even attempting to draw, but nothing settled the ache twisting inside her. It was not just embarrassment. It was not just shock. It was the feeling of being left out of a truth that should have mattered. She whispered to herself, "Why did it have to be him?" Her phone buzzed once, a notification from work. Her start date would be confirmed soon. She should have felt excited. Instead, she felt lost, suspended in uncertainty. Working under Adrian now felt impossible. Yet walking away from the job would shatter everything she had hoped for. By the time she arrived at Harbor and Lee for her final paperwork review, she was emotionally exhausted. She stepped through the glass doors with steady breaths and repeated one sentence in her mind. "Just get through today." The receptionist greeted her and directed her to a conference room. But when Maya pushed the door open, she stopped instantly. The room was transformed. Her sketches, every one she had shown Adrian, were printed on crisp white paper and arranged across the walls like an intimate gallery. Soft lights illuminated each drawing, highlighting the details she always thought no one noticed. The street lamp, the cafe counter, the rainy window, the hallway sketch she tried so hard not to finish. Her breath caught as her eyes moved across the room. Half of the drawings she had forgotten she even made. But someone had not forgotten. Someone had taken hours to prepare this. A quiet voice came from behind her. "Maya." She turned slowly. Adrian stood in the doorway, not in a suit this time, but in a simple shirt with the sleeves slightly rolled, looking less like the man from the gala and more like the man who had gently asked, "Are you all right in a hotel hallway?" He stepped inside with a careful, almost hesitant calm. "I wanted you to see what I see," he said softly. "Before anything else, before titles or expectations, before you decide what to do next." She swallowed hard. "You did all this, yes." Why, his eyes held hers steady and earnest. "Because you deserve to know that what you create has value, and because I never wanted my name to be the reason you doubted yourself." Emotion tightened her chest. She looked around again, her voice trembling. "This is a lot." "I know," he said quietly. "But losing the chance to be honest with you felt even heavier." Maya took a slow breath, the warmth of the room sinking into her. This was not a display of wealth. It was a display of intention, care, understanding, and it softened something inside her she thought had broken. "Adrian," she whispered, "I do not know what to say." "You do not need to say anything," he replied. "Just know that I want to make this right." And for the first time since the gala, she let herself believe that maybe he truly meant it. For a long, quiet moment, Maya stood in the center of the room, surrounded by the soft glow of her own drawings. The world outside felt distant, muted, as if all that existed was this room and the man who had chosen to fill it with pieces of her life. She let her fingertips brush the edge of a printed sketch, the one of the rainy window from her apartment. She had drawn it on a night she felt invisible. Now someone had placed it beneath warm lights. She swallowed, a tightness rising in her throat. "I never thought anyone would see these. They are just moments." "Moments matter," Adrian said gently, "and you see them in ways most people never pause to notice." There was no pedestal in his voice. No performance. Just sincerity, steady and warm. He took one step closer, but not enough to crowd her. Only enough to show he was there if she wanted him to be. "I am sorry, Maya," he continued. "Not for who I am, but for not telling you sooner. I should have trusted you with the truth." She let out a slow breath. "I was angry because I felt foolish. I thought I misunderstood everything." "You did not," he said. "You saw the real me, the version that does not always fit into boardrooms and galas." She looked up at him, really seeing the weight behind his calm expression. "I do not know how to fit into your world." "You do not have to," he answered. I do not want you to change. I just want you to walk beside me." The softness in his voice settled over her like a quiet promise. Her heart eased the sharp edges of hurt, fading into something gentler. She stepped toward him just slightly, and "What if I am still afraid?" His smile was small and sincere. "Then we take it one step at a time, together." Silence wrapped around them, warm, not heavy. She let her fingers rest on the edge of her sketchbook, grounding herself in the familiarity of it. The room, the light, the quiet breathing between them, it all felt like the beginning of something she had never allowed herself to imagine. She looked up again. "I want to try." A breath left his chest, almost like relief. He nodded once slowly, as if sealing something unspoken. "Then we begin from here," he said. Later that evening, after the paperwork was finalized, Adrian walked her out of the building. The city glowed with soft evening light, and the streets hummed with life. For the first time since their awkward beginning in the hotel hallway, Maya felt her steps fall in rhythm with his. As they reached the corner, she paused and glanced up at him. "You know, our first meeting was a disaster." He laughed quietly. "It was unforgettable." Her smile widened, shy but real. "Maybe some mistakes are meant to happen." "Maybe they are," he agreed. They stood there for a moment longer before walking forward, not as a CEO and a nervous interview candidate, not as two people from different worlds, but simply as two hearts choosing to meet in the middle. And somewhere deep inside, Maya realized that the moment she thought would ruin everything had become the moment that started it all.